Hi everybody, my name is Kim and welcome back to my channel, Bookmarks and Breadsticks, a channel dedicated to bookish content, all in the space of food writing. I'm predominantly someone who reviews nonfiction writing, anything from food memoirs to the history of corn, and I do like to dabble in fiction from time to time. Today, I am bringing you my August wrap-up. Now, this is the second time I've had to film this. I spent all of last weekend filming a bunch of content so that I could be ahead of schedule since my wedding is exactly 7 days away from now. And when I uploaded and exported everything off my camera, there was no sound. Like no sound at all. Not even the scurrying of like the mic I was wearing, nothing. So I was really frustrated, and now here we are, it's a week later, and now I have 7 days till the wedding, so I need to film these, get these scheduled out. Ta-da. So now that that little preamble is over, today is our August wrap-up. I have 8 books for you this month. 1 book is fiction, and 7 are nonfiction. 1 was also read in the form of an audiobook. So we have 1 audiobook, 1 fiction book, and 6 other nonfiction food writing books. Let's get started. So first we have Cooked by Michael Pollan. This is actually the only audiobook I listened to this month. I love listening to Michael Pollan's books because Michael Pollan actually narrates them himself. If Cooked sounds familiar, you might be familiar with his Netflix show, Cooked, based off of this book. Fun fact about Michael Pollan is when Michael Pollan was learning to cook, he was actually trained by Samin Nosrat. If you know Samin, or you've heard the name Samin, you would know Samin from Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. Samin actually audited one of Michael Pollan's classes to learn how to write like food writing books and cookbooks and etc. So it became very full circle. He's in class, he's teaching, there is bright-eyed Samin in his class who goes on to create Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, and she's the one who teaches him how to cook. Pretty cool. So this book was published in 2013. I think this is his 7th book, but only the 3rd I've actually listened to. So let's just take a quick peek. And maybe one of my goals will be to read all of his books by the end of 2021. So Michael Pollan is the author of 6 previous food books, including Food Rules, In the Defense of Food, The Omnivore's Dilemma, and The Botany of Desire, all of which have been bestsellers for the New York Times bestsellers. And he is a Knight Professor of Journalism at Berkeley, which is where Samin took a class with him. In 2010, Time magazine named him one of the 100 most influential people in the world. So I have read In Defense of Food and The Omnivore's Dilemma so far. So I've got 2. And now the 3rd one is Cooked. So Cooked is really, instead of going out in the world, it's actually about coming home and coming back to your kitchen. And why we as mankind, Homo sapiens, need cooking. And what does cooking really mean to us? Michael Pollan brings it all home to explore the previously uncharted territory of his own kitchen. Here, he discovers the enduring power of 4 classical elements: fire, water, air, and earth, to transform the stuff of nature into delicious things to eat and drink. So, of course, that intro did make me think of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which was hilarious. Love that show. It's on Netflix if you haven't seen it yet. Highly recommend it. I really enjoyed how Pollan did break up the book into these 4 elemental sections. And you learn about things like the history of barbecue, why air matters, the leavening of bread. There's so much richness in here, but I actually really do recommend listen to it as an audiobook because you can hear Pollan talk about his own life, even his budding relationship with his son who's getting ready to go to college, and how they bond in those moments where Pollan is actually finally in the kitchen cooking and his son is actually there, and he might be there begrudgingly at first, and it really helps them build a bond. It's also fun how Pollan explores things like, you know, cooking takes a lot of work. So what about the days where you indulge and go get takeout, or those pre-assembled meals you can get at the grocery store? What does that actually mean for the family that comes together and eats at the table? I don't know about you, when I grew up with my 2 sisters and my parents, dinner was at 5 o'clock and it was always at the table and we always ate together and we always had to finish our meals and drink our glass of milk or we couldn't get down from the table. And this went on straight until I left for college. So I resonated with a part of this book. When I went through college and grad school, I really wasn't cooking a lot. And since I've gotten a little bit older, I've gotten back into cooking. I got back into cooking for nutritional reasons. I'm a power lifter, I'm a dancer, and I had a nutrition coach who wanted me to hit specific macros. But the average person spends less than 23 minutes a day assembling food. Now, I bulk all of that together on the weekends and cook for about 2 to 3 hours, so I have meals the whole week with Dan. But even those moments now, Dan and I have started to cherish. So what about you? Like, do you spend time in the kitchen? And if you haven't, I highly recommend Cooked. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and it will really make you think about that space in your house called the kitchen. So next up is the only fiction book I read this month, The Logger Queen of Minnesota. So this is by J. Ryan Straddle, and this is a story, it's a multi-generational story and the importance of beer in their lives. So 2 sisters are growing up together, and when their father passes away, instead of splitting the farm and the land 50-50, all of the share goes to the younger sister, Helen, and this divides the family, and these 2 sisters do not speak for years. So a good portion of the book, you're learning about Helen, her love of beer, why she convinced her father that she needed the capital, versus her sister Edith, the older sister, who's barely getting by. While she's barely getting by, she really enjoys baking pies for the assisted living home that she really works at. And as those pies take off, she tries to find or better a life for her and her husband. And then as time goes on, there's another change and shift in dynamics when Edith's daughter and son-in-law pass away, and she now takes in Diana, her granddaughter. So it's multi-generational. It's about sisterhood, it's about family, it's also about beer, which I'm not a beer drinker, but I really enjoyed how far the author took us, like, into making beer, the unglamorous side of it, and also the dynamics between family. Really fun read, really good summer read. Highly recommend this one as well. Third book on the list, I actually just finished last night. This is The Primal Cheeseburger. This is by Elizabeth Rosen, and it is a culinary deconstruction of the beloved hamburger. So this, or the beloved burger, because technically there's a whole chapter on cheese. So you go through all the elements of a burger: the meat, the patty, the vegetables, which is really like the pickles, the lettuce, etc. What else goes on a burger? Jesus. The meat, the bun, the vegetables, the condiments. Primarily we focus on ketchup and the cheese. And then we also talk about French fries and cola. This is a very approachable book. This is from like 93, so it's getting a little bit on in age, but if you ever wanted something conversational that has sprinklings of food history, but it's conversational, easy read, I highly recommend this one. 3 hamburgers out of 5 hamburgers. It was super sweet. It's just shy of 200 pages, and I don't know if you can tell, but this is not a normal standard size book. Here, I'll hold one up as comparison. So it's a little shorter, which means the pages are not actually as long. So give this one a read if you want to know a little bit more about your favorite hamburger. Fourth book is Tomatoland. Tomatoland, How Modern Industrial Agriculture Destroyed Our Most Alluring Fruit by Barry Estabrook. So this book I actually got right after I left my job at Kraft Heinz. I found it like a big hello, goodbye, fuck you, I guess. This book blew my mind. It might actually be on the top 10 for books of the year because it showed me the underbelly of the tomato world that I didn't even know existed. Like, don't laugh. You think, oh, there's a dark side to growing tomatoes. There is. There is a modern slave ring, essentially, in Florida, where undocumented immigrants are coming over the border and are being snatched up by, they're called like crew drivers in the book, and the crew driver is a contract worker of these big tomato agriculture growing plants. And they bring these people on, they make piss money, and they are working with dangerous chemicals that you should be like in full body hazmat suits to be using. Yet this is the chemical that's being sprayed on our tomatoes. But because these are undocumented illegal immigrants, They're not gonna fight back. They're afraid to go to the hospital, and those crew bosses abuse, take advantage of them. It's awful, and it made me really ashamed of us in this country. It made me really proud that I grow my own tomatoes on my balcony, and it made me proud that I do buy local and support local. So everything that I buy is within about 200 miles of the city of Chicago, which does mean that tomatoes are seasonal, and you shouldn't get tomatoes year-round, essentially. I really recommend this book. It's a tough read. I don't think it's tough in terms of the facts or the history. It's not a lot of dense data, but if it doesn't make you mad about what's going on, then you're part of the problem. Fifth book is A Bowl of Olives, Food and Memory, and I have to zoom in so you can see how beautiful these little drawings are. I don't know if you really count this as reading a book. This artist, Sarah Mida, M-I-D-D-A, basically it's a book of her memories, and she has just illustrated it, and it's so pretty. It's a book that I saw a complete cover by that I got at a local bookstore called Unabridged, and I was just really excited to have it. It's super cute, and it's something to flip through. There's not a lot of continuity or narration to it. There's no beginning, middle, and end, but it's super sweet, and I'm glad I have it. Sixth book is Slice Harvester, a memoir all about pizza by Colin Aptrophy Hagendorf. So this was a ball to read. This was a lot of fun. And just to give you a date of when this happened, on August 11th, 2009, I set out to eat a plain slice from every pizzeria in Manhattan. On November 22nd, 2011, 2 years and 435 slices later, I ate the last one. This is my story. It's awesome. I am a New Yorker through and through. It made me miss pizza. I could relate to his criticism of shit pizza. It was just a lot of fun. He's a punk rocker trying to find his place in the world, and suddenly decides that he's gonna eat pizza. This is in the era of like MySpace and geosites. So if he starts to gain fame and gets an article in the New York Post, and this guy has no idea what's going on. He's just excited that this adventure of his can suddenly pay his rent. Throughout it, he's also building relationships, losing relationships. He is struggling with his denial of his alcoholism, and a lot of that does come to light as the book goes on. But this was fun. You want an easy read? You want to feel like you're in New York and that you miss pizza? Pick it up. It's a really fun read. Next book is the only book I read this month that's actually not about food. This is the library book, and also look at that cover. It's so pretty. It also goes down the spine as well. So this is The Library Book by Susan Orlean, and this book focuses on the morning of April 29th, 1986, when the Los Angeles Public Library is set on fire. This book is a love story to libraries. If you love your library, which I'm talking to the bookish community, I assume we all love our libraries. This book is for you, just because she interviews, librarians, patrons of libraries, and it's just wonderful. A little bit is a mystery of a whodunit, who did it, why would you do it, why would you burn down a library, or at least attempt to. What I did love is that the book talks about that the fire got so hot that the books just combusted and would go up in flames. The books that they could save were so waterlogged that they were put in deep freeze. Think of like freeze-dried fruit and vegetables for over 3 years. And then when the books started to defrost and thaw, they were put in these vice-like presses to squeeze all the water out. And there was something like 300 gallons of water pushed out of the couple million books they were able to survive. They were able to rescue. Books they were able to rescue, books that survived the fire. There you go. That was what I was trying to articulate. But I really loved this book. Again, it's an homage to libraries. And fun fact, I worked at a library all through high school. So did both my sisters, actually. We were all adult reference pages were our titles. So I knew how to shelve books. I understood the Dewey Decimal System. It was a lot of fun. We were a family that in the summer, my mother would take us to the summer reading club. We'd pick out books, and then you could find me at home, before the eras of smartphones. I would just lay on the living room floor with my books and read all day. So my mother is tickled pink, which is her favorite phrase, tickled pink that I am back into reading as voraciously as I am. Final book of the month is actually a textbook. This is Farming While Black. So this is an author of color, and I actually read this with my food tank internship program's book club. We're actually reading The Cooking Gene this month. Thankfully, I've already read it. So this was another book that we just picked up, Farming While Black. Some of our most cherished sustainable farming practices have roots in African wisdom, yet discrimination and violence against African American farmers has led to their decline from 14% of all growers in 1920 to less than 2% today, with a corresponding loss of over 14 million acres of land. This is one of those books, it's a textbook. It's very factual, it's very easy to read, and it was fun to read and understand different mechanics behind farming, but also how difficult it is for Black farmers. You know, the USDA in the past, as a form of discrimination, the USDA passed laws that made it extremely difficult for Blacks to get loans, to take out mortgages, to actually own their land. That's what that decline of land has come down to. And now there are people who are trying to reclaim the land and still run into hurdles today. It does talk about sustainable farming practices as well, which is really nice.